Hi everyone, this is Pradeep from Sydney, welcoming you to yet another episode of GCC, Global Chapters and Connections. This is episode 21 and it is midnight in Sydney as I wish a very happy good morning, good afternoon, good evening or whatever it is in your part of the day or night. Today I am delighted to host two very interesting personalities. One, Sunil Agarwal, 1979 BTech from IIT Delhi and 1981 PGDM from IIM Ahmedabad, who has reinvented himself as a cartoon writer post his corporate entrepreneurial journey. And the second person today is a person very well known in the IT industry, who was one of the founding members and also a past chairman of NASSCOM. He has also been the founder chairman of Mastek, a listed company. And he's been in a number of other boards, including IIM Ahmedabad and a large number of boards in and across India. So let's kick off, and let's kick off with Sunil Agarwal.
After my life really started, after I finished my career, so I did try becoming a social media consultant. And that didn't go very well because all the decision makers were 20 years younger than me. And it's very hard to sell whatever you've got when the person at the other end sees you as a grand uncle. Then Kejriwal was coming up, and this was before the Aam Aadmi Party was coming up. And I joined him. Then I joined some international social service organization. Very interesting why I did this and why I was doing all this. So the number one reason was that when somebody asked me at a party, what do you do? I had to say something. Because normally in India, when people meet you, even before asking you your name, they say, so what do you do? So you have to fake up something. And it's a very good thing. Suppose you say, I'm doing social service for this international organization. You look respectable, you look nice. Then the second was I had this great fear that whenever I meet youngsters, have I become irrelevant? Because I had nothing to do. And believe me, after you retire, this is a huge fear. This fear of becoming irrelevant. And the third thing is I needed an occupation. I was just plain and simple bored at home. I was more like a bull, roaming around in the streets. So that is what I was up to, and I did various things. Long and short of it is that I was thoroughly dissipated, trying to do things for various reasons and trying to do things that were not me. Then came a huge period of, I'm sorry, keeping track of the time, so I'm going to go a little faster. I spent a lot of time. I was bored, frustrated. There was a huge amount of emptiness, loneliness. I know I was in such a bad shape, almost depressed, that, how many times can you renovate the house? Because, you have nothing to do. You don't know what to do. You don't know which way your mind will go, what your actions will be. It's really bad. You try that for 5 years after retirement and something will happen to you too. When I thought that I can't do something like this, I'm naturally introspective by nature. And so I thought, let me do one thing. Let me just sit down and forget the past, because the past hasn't worked. And I said, the first thing I did was I edited my LinkedIn profile. So even if you see it now, my LinkedIn profile is basically this: IIT Delhi, 1979, I am Babra. And the year markers are only for one thing. And that is that if you want to connect with me, you need to know that, look, I'm sure there are millions Sunil Agarwals in the world. that this is the guy who was there, and yes, you can connect with me, which is the only reason I keep a LinkedIn profile. Yeah, I built up this place of my own. And in that place, sacred space, I introspected. And I looked around, all my books were over there. And I said, what is it that I really like? And I saw many, many books. There were lots of self-help books. And then there were lots of books on humor. So I said, maybe this is what I like doing. And yes, since childhood, I'd like to crack, I like jokes. So what I did was I got on to Amazon and I ordered literally 100 books related to comedy. And I used to go through them very lovingly. There's nothing like having a hard copy book in your hand and to go through it, lovely paper, and after that to say that, look, I had many of them highlighted. And I've still got them. And one book leads to another, and something leads to another, and it's like an adventure. And through these adventures, I realized that, look, I wanted to learn. I wanted to explore. And it was great fun. And finally, I said, writing jokes is one thing. Learning comedy is another thing. Nobody is doing cartoons. Maybe I should do that because I'm an ideas person. I have the ideas, sure. I didn't have the art, I can't draw. So I said, best is partner somebody. You have to find a solution. So I partnered somebody from New Zealand, and I partnered somebody from Serbia. You can find all these people on the net. And then I started showing people the work. Believe me, when I see that work now, it was so bad that I can't, I don't feel like watching it myself. Trust me, I showed the work all around, which is the best thing I did. And I was looking at my Infusionsoft account. I sent out 100 feedback forms in 3-4 years, 100. Trying to get feedback on how people rate the cartoons on a scale of 1 to 10, etc. Because see, when you try and get feedback, you are facing yourself up to rejection. And that builds up your confidence, because whenever you try to create something new, you have to face rejection. So you've got to practice that. So anyway, my work started getting better. Then my wife's friend, her husband was the editor of the Times of India. He was my friend also. So what I did was, one day at a party or whatever, I showed it to him. And he said, yeah, very good, yeah, very good. So I landed up in the office the next day. And I said, you called me? He says, no, I didn't call you. But anyway, I showed him the cartoons. And then I started use my selling skills and networking skills within Times of India. And I think over the next 3-4 months, I wormed my way into finally selling them. And I used to do a lot of funny stuff. Like, I used to buy these lovely, very, very snazzy file folders in the US or wherever, and put the cartoons over there. So nobody wanted to throw the file folders away. They were so beautiful. So if they've got the folders and they've got nice cartoons inside, they would look at that. So all these tricks you have to do. So I forgot to tell you that, look, the editor had also told me that, look, if you want cartoons published in the Times of India, you have to work with an illustrator in the Times of India. So then I put out Ajit Nainan, who's in Times of India, and I said, look, why are you, my pitch was that, look, aren't you bored doing political cartoons? Don't you want to do something interesting in life and blah, blah, and over a few drinks, he agreed. So, see, if you believe you have to do something serious, you have to do it differently. You can't just sit back and wait for things to happen to you. So it's a lot of hard work. Then I realized, frankly, if you ask me, I had zero talent, but I had a lot of guts, and I had a lot of go. And I'll tell you why. Because everything else had failed. I had tried 8 different things before in my after retirement careers. I promise you 8 different things. And nothing had worked out except for ending up in depression. And I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I was ashamed of myself, very frankly, because of the reasons I told you and many more. So I started copying ideas. and passing them off. When I say copying, IITians know how to copy ideas. They're so good at copying ideas, the other fellow gets caught. So I started adapting ideas, and I used to pass off the ideas as my own, because it was a way of learning. And when you have zero talent, you start from zero, and you have to do anything in the book to launch yourself. Then I said, if I'm really that bad, maybe I need to do some courses and some tuition. Now, in one of the books, it was called The Comic Toolbox. It said things like that to get one good idea, you have to try 10. And then one good idea comes out. So I started writing a lot of jokes. I started reading a lot of jokes. I must have read in my lifetime over 10, 20,000 cartoons. And I must have written 10,000 cartoons. I must have read lakhs of them. I've actually written 10,000 cartoons. In fact, if 2,000 have been published in the Times of India, 2,000 have been published, and I have easily written 10x. So 20,000 I have easily written. So some of them have to be good. It's probability. So then he explained a lot of nuances to me. One more thing I did. I went and announced to the world that this is my career. So I threw a party in the Oberoi for 300 people, just announcing that I finally found my mojo in life. Now, I am a man I was very image conscious. Now, when you go and make such a bold announcement, you have to live up to it, because the last thing I feel I want is to have people laugh at me. So you make the announcement, and after that you spend sleepless nights saying that, look, I don't want people to laugh at me. So that is a good thing. So another good thing that I did. So this fellow said, I'm going to charge for my time. So I said, never mind. And I took some coaching. It was really worth it. And the ideas was very bad. My ideas were very bad, but he was polite. And he taught me a few tricks, and that helped. I also did about 5-6 online courses. And then I went to the US and did 3 courses over there. So I was very keen to learn. Now, what happened in these courses, especially, in fact, in these courses that I did, one was in New Hampshire, one in Chicago, one in Seattle. See, what happens is you form a different community. I found a different community of people who were passionate about comedy writing and comedy creation. And it's a different world out there. It's very different from the kind of people I had been meeting all along, business people, government people, because the sort of people who I have met most of my life are people who lived in air conditioners. And there I met people, for example, 2 people I remember, some Emily something, some young unwed mother, must have been 20 something or whatever. Now she was doing this course, and I could see that, look, she must have spent all her discretionary available income that month in doing this course, but she was doing it. Then I met another girl over there, again, 20 something, who was a stunt double in the movies. And it was very interesting. She was an expert on firearms. And then in Chicago, I saw her shoes. Trust me, the shoes were like 6 years old. Now, if you go on the snow in Chicago, your shoes, something happened to them, and she hadn't changed her shoes. She probably couldn't afford that. And I was thinking, think of my driver. He wears new shoes every year. And then you realize that what passion means, what commitment means. And here I was sitting over here, and I can afford to change an interest, change a hobby every 6 months. So that's why these communities are helpful. You are exposed to different value systems. Now, like I told you, I got started and committed to this new identity. And then there were these challenges. And let me give you some example of challenges. Once Ajit Nainan, my partner, had some problems, either with me or maybe personal issues or whatever. And one day, while we are successful, right? While things are going all well, jokes are getting forwarded all around in WhatsApp and whatnot. Everything going all well. Everybody will say, everything going all well, what's wrong? Suddenly one day he says, I'm stopping. I'm not doing a single other card. And I go like, what? Everything's going well and he's stopping the supply of cartoons. Now, can you imagine? Here I am with just my words, desperately in need of illustration, with the only supply channel available that the Times of India will accept. And that fellow says, I'm off. I'm not doing that. And it was more like F you. So I said, now what do I do? I was saying, I can't afford to give this up because I've made a commitment. And yes, it's a fun thing to do. And I'm getting the name, fame, and everything. And it was too heady a thing for me. Everything was working for me. And then I thought and thought and thought. And then I said, okay, I've got a solution. So I looked at the past 500 cartoons. And I selected about 100 of them that had generic visuals. Husband talking to a wife, two guys playing with the kids, etc., etc. I took those 100 and I did the equivalent of word processing. So I would change the colors, I would flip them this way, and I would put a new caption. Now that went on for about a month. I was simultaneously doing Ajit Nainan again and again and again. And he finally agreed and he got back into action. But wow, that was one big challenge that I had. Second big challenge. I was so immersed in this work, so immersed in it, I forgot about everything else. To me, very frankly, weddings, funerals, hospital visits, restaurants, TV, exercise, all this was part of maintenance. Necessary maintenance so that I could do what I really want to do. Now, I told you I started living in a different world. I was taking courses not only in comedy, not only in cartooning, but in unrelated fields or somewhat related fields like screenwriting. Because in comedy, one very important thing is timing. So to improve your timing, you have to have a good exposure to a lot of other fields. Then I'm good at process development. I pride myself, having run a company, in developing a process for everything. So I had these huge flowcharts in the room. And I used to draw processes. This is how I'll do this. This is how I'll, come up to 9, come up to 10 cartoons. This is how, so all that I could do. Then I read comics in French. I remember once we went to Berlin and I ordered from, I think, Amsterdam, a whole this big, thick comics called Le Chat in French because I wanted to study a different type of visuals. Somebody called me from Amsterdam saying, sir, who are you? And why are you buying this? Because nobody ever bought this for the last so many years or whatever. So this is what I'm trying to say, that your interests have to diversify. Then I started reading stuff like the autobiography of the guy who started Mad Max. I started dreaming big. I said, can I do that over here? It's that saying, reach for the stars or whatever, aim at the stars and something, aim at the sky and you'll fall down in the trees. That's exactly what happens. So you have to just dream. And to dream, immerse yourself in different worlds. So that's what I learned. Okay. Then I told you about, took these courses. There was this place in the second city, Chicago, where I learned improv. Improv is acting. Now I'm learning acting. And the other guys over there are 30 years old. And it takes something in improv to open yourself up, where literally you can speak any kind of nonsense and say, and the reason being that, look, I'm confident of saying anything as long as it is spontaneous. They teach you spontaneity, and that is very important in this field. And I think I was trying to build my own rhythm. I'll talk about rhythm later. because this own rhythm wasn't important. Now, I was feeling a different kind of connect to the world. When I sat down in restaurants, I would try to overhear conversations and try to make something out of it. In the past, my world had been the practicalities of city living, taxes, the immediate family, the world of commerce, and now I was onto a totally different world. And the way I was looking at the world was through my lens of observation, of close observation, of dispassionate observation. For example, everybody watches CNN, during the Trump thing, everybody is watching CNN. So I was watching it too. Now, I was seeing it from the point of view of how can I make this thing funny? Okay, it's tough in the case of Trump, but I tried to make it funny and came out with 2 books, Trump cartoons or whatever. Then I introspected on bosses. I had bosses, I had been a boss. And I introspected and I realized that I had been such a bad boss at times. And I had had such bad bosses. I guess I was a good boss at times. And I said, there is something in bosses that is crazy. And I wrote a lovely book. I really pride myself on that, with Crazy Bosses, a book of cartoons. So, see, what I'm doing is understanding. It's like what my mentor told me, that comedy is truth and misery. So if it's not truth, there's no comedy. And if it's not misery, you don't get material to wring comedy out of it. So I brought out the comedy in both these situations, Trump and Crazy Bosses. And I loved doing it. And I did it for myself. It didn't matter the books. I think the Crazy Bosses book, which was on Amazon, sold 6 copies. And 2 of them must have been the ones that I bought. And I don't know how many Trump sold. And if you must know, very frankly, I just came to Delhi, and my assistant who had told me that, sir, कुछ आपके checks पड़े हैं Amazon से आए, अच्छा कितने के 800, 500, and I opened them up just now, and they happen to be Great Britain pounds. I'm looking at them. Somebody actually bought the books, and many of them are outdated. I can't encash the checks, but it feels good that some people actually bought the books. And so that's the kind of world I want to live in. I want to be excited about these things. Anyway, yes.
A couple of questions which come to my mind. When I look at the first phase, that was really trying to discover what your passion was. You went around to Aam Aadmi Party, or I don't know whether you really did it, with the intention or not, or whatever it is. You were experimenting with different things to see whether you enjoyed them or not. And then came the phase when you kind of homed on to humor as an area which is going to be, really something that you want to be immersed into. And then came the area or the phase when you immersed yourself so deeply into it, and then you started expanding.
Right. So there is one simple thread in all of these. That the decision-making criterion was very, very simple. Am I feeling alive or am I not feeling alive? If I'm not feeling alive, then don't do it. I don't know what will make me feel alive, but I know what's not making me feel alive. And I said, let's not do that. Slowly, I'll flow into something that will make me feel alive. So it took me 8 different things before I started feeling alive about something. And then I said, yes, I will commit. And I made that announcement to people that this is it. Otherwise, you'll laugh at me. And so that was it. So that was to answer your question. Then I was telling you, if I stand in hospital lobbies, now I know that's not we all spend a lot of time in hospitals, carrying people there, carrying people out of there, going there for checkups and all that. So it's a very nice pastime to see what is happening and seeing it dispassionately. See, this thing about seeing things dispassionately was a big boon, at least in my profession, or at least in the thing that I took. And when you look at things dispassionately, you start breathing easy. It's like saying you start developing your own rhythm. I told you about I was fine-tuning my timing. So this thing, and that's what made me feel alive. I was practicing this. I was learning without distraction. One thing definitely I did when I was learning, that phone used to be, sometimes my assistant is sitting there and I told him, you keep the phone with you. Anything that happens, you answer it. Obviously it's on silent. You do something and don't disturb me for this next 15, 20 minutes, half an hour or whatever. Okay. And to tell you the truth, the most enjoyable thing in this whole thing is the learning. And the accelerated learning comes when I started off with the eyes of a kindergarten kid. I know zero. I have zero talent, but there is a whole wide world over there till the university level. I will learn, I will enjoy it, because one thing is for sure. This field I have enjoyed sometime in the past. Not recently, but sometime in the past. So let me stick to it. And in the process, I remained in the moment, in that learning. See, being in the moment was in that learning. It was not when I saw the name in the papers. Trust me, that lasted about 3 seconds. And I used to get them to cut out all the papers and see them and, weigh them and, feel good. When the forwards used to come, I used to feel good on WhatsApp. But that was about 3 seconds. The main fun is in the struggle. And the struggle is tough. It's that blood, sweat, and tears. And that is where the fun is. So if you take up a serious hobby, first of all, there's a huge difference between a hobby and a serious hobby. Like today, I play bridge. My bridge is 2 hours a day, every day. Plus, I take coaching, which is two sessions in a week. So the time spent on that is not, I do spend a lot of time, but it's not a serious hobby. It's not a do or die hobby. It's not a commitment. It's not a commitment. The difference is, so there are 3 levels: hobby, serious hobby, and professional. Professionalism is when you actually have to make a living. Now, even if the hobby, serious hobby goes down, I won't starve, so to speak. I can still, but if your profession, something happens, it's far more serious. So I'm not in that. The second thing that happened was, or the third thing, is the solitude. I started enjoying the solitude. So much so that I started realizing that I'm actually an introvert. Now, all my life, I've been, successful because of my, ability to network, to be an extrovert and all that. And here it is, after 5 decades, I realized that I'm an introvert. And I'm happy being an introvert. So these are the levels of self-awareness that I went through. And I think that was what the struggle was worth. And I had created a unique identity for myself. And I just have a couple of more things to say. So I would say that a serious hobby is an opportunity to find yourself. And a serious hobby, the practice of a serious hobby, is a practice in being yourself, in finding your own rhythm, in finding your rhythm and staying with that rhythm and practicing it again and again. And then what you earn is many, many, many moments, precious moments of feeling alive. And that practice is addictive. And you are willing to pay any price to stay with that addictive practice. It's really addictive. Secondly, there will be challenges. It's very easy to want to give up. My health is gone, my uncle is gone, I have to go there, etc. And the third is you connect to other people with some purposefulness. So those are the advantages that I think I have found, and I'm very glad. I'm not saying that that's my state today and now, because the lockdown pulls you down. Then of late, a lot of people, close friends of mine, like my assistant, he passed away earlier this year because of COVID. So things do pull you down, and unfortunately now, for example, I've started saying I should be spending time with that old aunt before something happens. I should be doing this because these things have become far more palpable. That things are mortal, and yes, these things slow you down. But my presentation, my talk was about how I developed a serious hobby in the past. And what I learned was I earned precious moments of feeling alive. Thank you.
So, Sunil, question number one. You were in a position of financial security. You could afford to follow through or find what is of interest to you. Well, everybody may not be in that kind of a situation. So, is there a caveat that is this only for people who've got financial security?
I have no idea. I can only talk to you about myself.
Okay. And the steps that you say that you have followed, which is in terms of, really describing that what makes you feel really enjoy and all that, well, that's the same thing for anybody with passion. If you look at any of the movies of people following passions, irrespective of whatever the age is, it's the same story that what makes you jump out of the bed every morning and, you really want to do something rather than, being forced to get out of the bed. So, I mean, if I were to look at it as somebody at 100,000 feet, it would be, yes, okay, at one point was, finding what you enjoy, and the second is that you were prepared to kind of start from, base zero and to learn everything in that particular thing. Now, that aspect, which you highlighted in terms of, mentioning to the world that, yes, I'm going to do that, but that depends on person to person. You don't necessarily have to be, one is so lost into, following one's passion, they don't care whether people think or don't think.
Yeah, so I'm sure that, look, my story is as unique as the stories of a million other people in the past and will. So this is my story. I'm here in person, firsthand, to tell you my story. If it's similar to a million other people's, I mean, I don't know. I haven't done that research.
No, so the point I'm trying to make is it is a fabulously good story because you have what people see you at this particular point in time is somebody who has become or reinvented himself as a cartoon writer, and I think people know you as a cartoon writer now rather than knowing anything else about what you did earlier. And that is why it is an interesting story. Now, a couple of other things is that what is the cartoon writer? How does this whole thing happen? You say you got a partner with, so what do you kind of, think up of a situation, then you write it down, and then, or how do you kind of communicate that idea to your partner?
Yes. So I send him an email with the idea that this is the idea that wife tells husband, right? I wish I knew you as well as Google does. And then he takes over. I have enough faith.
Okay. So it's equally important that you find somebody who's able to kind of clearly you have that sync with him and you just pass on an email to him and he's able to translate that into some visual.
Yes, he was the sixth person I tried to partner.
And are you at a situation where you think that you found the right person or you may have to go for seventh and eighth?
I have also found the seventh and tried him out, and I'm still partnering with the seventh. Also because of circumstances, because Times of India also does its own, partner and, department changes and all. So you have to adapt to circumstances.
So as a cartoon writer, are you still subject to what Times of India wants you to write about, or you have total creative freedom?
Yeah, it's Times of India on the call.
No, they are not on the call.
Yeah, let's go on to some other topics because this will get uncomfortable with my employer.
Okay. So the other question is that as you went through the journey and as you kept on kind of rejecting ideas, how did you suddenly, you said that, you thought that, yes, I enjoyed humor right from the time that I was a kid. But how did you kind of really think that this is it that I really enjoy?
Because I realized that I don't know what I'll enjoy, so at least let me read jokes and find them funny. I did not realize that I would take it up as a serious hobby. It is serendipitous or whatever it's called. Because, I jumped into it unintentionally.
And the other interesting bit is that, you would be a perfect candidate for the metaverse, where all this discussion about the metaverse is, something which even cats and dogs are talking about nowadays.
Well, obviously, I'm not in that category.
No, you're not in that category, but I'm using it symbolically to indicate that everybody is talking about it. And metaverse is really about another world altogether, where which is
that proves my point that I'm living in a different world.
Yeah. So how do you manage being a total social? What should I call it? Just being cut off from everybody else.
Well, I'm managing fine.
No, you obviously are managing it fine. I'm looking at it more from view of, can people in the audience learn and kind of look at, is this a framework for them to kind of look and follow find their passion?
Are you giving me a job that you're interviewing me? I mean, I have no idea.
No, this is a fireside chat. So it is not a question of a job or an interview. Yes, we would like to understand that, yes, you followed a certain direction and you did very well.
People in the audience. Look, I can't speak for the people in the audience. You ask a question that I can answer because of my experience. I can't answer for somebody else's experience.
Sunil, may I ask you a question?
Sure, thanks.
I've enjoyed your cartoons ever since you first came out, and I noticed that the illustrations are very Western oriented. I've shown these to my American friends. I'm based in New York, and none of them recognize them as in the work of an Indian cartoonist. So my question is, can you find an Indian illustrator and make the cartoons more Indianish, if I may use that term?
Okay, good. The problem that I found with many Indian illustrators and cartoonists there were 2-3 categories of people. One were caricaturists, they'll draw a long nose of Indira Gandhi and all that. They think that is cartoons. The other is the political cartoonist. Nobody really understands that a cartoon is something minimalist. You have to remove things from the background. They'll add things to the background because they want to show what great illustrators they are. So they haven't been educated in gag cartoons. So not that I have found some people or haven't found people who are good enough. So it was very easy to find people in Serbia and in UK, the person I am working with now. So I'm fine with that. Yeah, but you're right.
Okay, I was just going to say that I'm old enough. I don't know how many of you are of my age. I'm 70 plus. I'm old enough to remember Lakshman cartoons. I don't know if anybody remembers those cartoons from the old days, from the 60s and 70s.
Sure.
So to me, that would be a typical Indian illustration. And I'm wondering if that tradition is dead now.
I don't think we have such a genius in India right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we've got 1 more minute left. If anybody's got any burning questions, we've already gone 20 minutes over time. So any last minute question anybody would want to ask?
May I ask?
Yes, please introduce yourself.
My name is Paritosh Tyagi. I am one of the fans.
Yes, but which city
Sunil
and which city, etc.?
I am from Noida.
Noida. Okay.
I want to ask the question, whether Mr. Sunil Agarwal is working to develop skills to illustrate his own cartoons.
No, that's virtually impossible. That's not at this stage, because see, each one of these things is years of. I can't. No.
Thank you.
Okay, so last question of the day for insofar as Sunil is concerned. If nothing else, then Sunil, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was an absolutely engaging story, and just like your cartoons, it had it totally engrossed.
Thank you.
So please, ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to Sunil for joining in today and sharing his journey in terms of how he reinvented himself as a cartoon writer. So take care and have a lovely day, evening, morning, evening. Let's go on to the number 2 item of the day, and definitely not the second item. And this is on a different tangent. As I mentioned, I'm delighted to present to you Ashank Desai. As I already mentioned to you, Ashank is a very formidable figure insofar as the Indian IT industry is concerned. Please give a big round of applause to Ashank, and specifically what I would like to ask you is, first of all, can you please say hi? And
Hi.
fabulous. I can see that you got Mastek at the background. Ashank, can you walk us through your journey? What happened after you finished IIT Bombay? I know that you went to IIM Ahmedabad, but was it immediately after IIT Bombay? Or did you
No.
work somewhere, or what exactly happened?
No. So like after IIT, like all other faithful engineers, I decided to join engineering. I must tell you this, most of the IITs don't do engineering in life. I think. So I decided to join as a design engineer. Right? And, I was working in a Godrej. I'm sure you know about that. I worked for 3 years, but then figured out, I don't think that engineering is what I want to do. I was kind of very excited with Peter Drucker, if all of you know. Great guy. Management researchers, of course, don't like him because he does not give books and all that. So I was excited with what I read, and I said I must do management. And the choice obviously was IIM Ahmedabad. And that is when I wanted to leave, my boss, or not boss, maybe he was boss's boss, but his name is Jamshed Godrej, he is well known now. That time he was very young like me. He says, Ashank, please don't leave Godrej, why don't you go and come back? So, they were so kind that they decided to give me pay my fees, which they had never done. So they said, I'll pay your fees, you go and come back. So that was IIM for me. To answer your question, what did I do after IIT and how I landed at IIM?
And then, post IIM, when did Mastek start?
That's a good story. By the way, I'm looking very formal because I was on the board meeting of IIM Ahmedabad and I was almost getting late. So I said, my dear Pradeep would say, what is this guy? Yeah? He doesn't can't. As usual, there was a long discussion and it was a physical meeting. So by the time I landed home, I had no choice but to come and sit here. So when I realized every one of you is sitting very nice colored t-shirt, and I didn't want to sit with a white shirt, so I said, let me continue. So at IIM, I met my colleagues, my classmates. And actually we started this whole venture right in the IIM in the second year. And if you are at IIM, second year is generally people get it. We also did that, but we were busy doing our own way, trying to start IIM, Mastek. and three, four of us were together. We did some projects in IT. We said we want to start IT enterprise. Nobody knew what we were trying to do. Remember 1979. There is nothing called software company. There was something called systems house concept that time. So my colleagues were saying, what is this Ashank? What are you trying to do? What will you do? To leave and get some money instead of joining Hindustan Liver or Citibank. So I'm trying to do this. So three of us were very clear. We wanted to be entrepreneurs. We were IT fed. In some form were clear of IT. So we kind of moved around with our Adam, who were in IT, CIO, asked them, can we do this? They said, oh, yes, nice. I'm happy that you are doing this. We can help you. We went to Delhi and met government guys. They met us because they said, I am summer, young guys are there. IIM professors met us and said, yeah, you are. So some people encouraged us, and we almost kind of decided to not take any serious job. I had to go back to Godrej, as I told you, because I paid my fees. So only Godrej was good about Godrej was giving up flat in Mumbai. So I said, I will take the flat and you guys come and stay with me. So all three of us stayed together, and four of us actually, one of them decided not to join us afterwards. He left. So we three stayed together and we were discussing how to start Mastek at the night time after coming from job. So our neighbors were quite perplexed what these guys are doing. But anyway, so that is the way it started. And we left after that, one after another in 81, 82, and that was Mastek.
So, which year are we talking about?
81, 82.
So, there was, if I recall correctly, Infosys was formed around that time or around that time?
Yeah, Infosys was a year or two before us, but yes, around same time.
And what was the focus of Mastek? Was it, onto exports, international markets? Was it on the domestic market, or was it a product, or what exactly was the focus at that particular point in time?
Good question. That was the key to our DNA. We didn't have any cousin brothers sitting in US, unfortunately. So we didn't go to exports for almost 7, 8 years, which was kind of little bit of loss of time. So we decided to work in India for Indian IT companies, Indian multinationals like Citibank, American Express, to provide them IT solutions. Now IT solutions as a word didn't exist that time. But we said we don't want to do anything. We want to do something serious where we build something to solve problems of management. Actually, Mastek, Pradeep, the name is Management and Software Technology.
Oh, I see. I see.
We said we are management graduates. We said we will solve problems of management to software. Enthusiasm. Whether you could do it or not, we'll see later, I said. So that Mastek came from there. So we said we'll solve problems of multinationals like Citibank and Evers or whoever who gave us job. But actually the first job was Procter & Gamble. They gave us a job to minimize they had a very interesting problem. See, they make bricks and toners, which has high volume in the monsoon. But they can't make it unless they either stock it in advance or they hire a machinery which they could not do as a multinational. So they applied an OR, operations research model called traveling salesman. Anyway, I'm telling you all this. That may not excite others. But so we were doing to solve IT problems, serious problems to software. And we did one of the first C programs. C came Pradeep right in 80. There's a book called Convenor and Reinvented. C language. We wrote our all user interface in C, way before But coming to your question, we soon realized custom-made software was not a great idea. HCL, I think my friend Arjun is there on this call, I saw it. Arjun and Jimnader and Jack were doing great job and they brought out a machine less than 1 lakh HCL. So we said we must build products for large mass of Indian customers who want to get first time. So we build product for financial accounting, we build product for stockbrokers, we build product for advertising agencies. So to answer your question, we were domestically focused company, focused on solutions, and probably the first applications product company in the country. I can say that, or one of the first. I'm talking of 82, 83 now. Remember?
So this is about the same time when this group, Nucleus Software and Polaris and all these people started the journey at the same time. So did you know them at that time?
No, Nucleus I didn't know. I didn't know Nucleus and Polaris guys for some reason. Maybe they were in Delhi, we were in Mumbai and all world in that sense, but still no. We didn't know them honestly. Now of course we know them.
Yeah, of course. So now let's move on to NASSCOM. So
Yes.
Which year was NASSCOM formed?
1988.
So we are talking about roughly about 3 to 4 years post your starting Mastek.
No, 6 years. 82 to 88.
88, okay.
Yeah.
Now, what was the vision behind setting up NASSCOM, and had IT software industry started becoming known all over the world?
Yeah, I think you have asked a great question. There will be a time, or there is a time, that the story of NASSCOM has to be written about. Not that it is not written. My friend Kiran Karnik has written a nice book called Competition. My other friend Harish is writing book also. But point I'm saying is, this is a story which changed the image of India. I'm very proud to say it. I may be biased as founder of NASSCOM, you will say, co-founder. But the point I'm making is, this was the inflection point of IT industry, software industry in India. And how it happened, I tell you. You see, what happened was, in 1988, IT industry or software industry was known. Generally, people were knowing that software is something to be done. We should try exports. People were trying export by then. Not that it was not known. Some people were working. TCS was there. Infosys had already started. And there was a company called Patti Computers. They were doing. But nobody believed us that we need to do a good software. Everyone used to first say, India में software बनाते हैं आप. You only know elephants and snakes. That is our image. So first we had to sell India before selling our company. So that was number one. Number two, nobody had enough people and talent to build company. I remember in 91, 93, in NASSCOM decided and said, what export we are talking here? We have 100 project managers or less than 100 project managers in the country. How are we going to do anything? We don't have a talent. So there was lack of talent, lack of project managers who understood what it means to build software for America and UK. We didn't know those applications. Banking was far 100 years behind US and UK. And so was insurance, so was manufacturing. So he said, what the hell we are going to do? So the people were asking us to send people on site, as we call it. Now, if we said we want to do it offshore, where is the bandwidth? The bandwidth is not there. We had one telephone line costing us lakhs of rupees. And that was a big joke, There was one line going between Bangalore to US in 1993-94 by Texas Instruments. And that was the first 64 kV line, not kV. Remember kV, kilobyte line. And we used to talk, India is now connected with the world and all that. Anyway, so coming back with all these problems, we realized we cannot make justice to it unless we come together and convince government, convince society around us that we need to do certain changes in the way we do business. And that is the reason we decided to do it. We used to have a association called MADE, Manufacturing, that was on hardware. and they were at a software division, but they could not do a justice because they were more about selling software in India, hardware in India. Software was given free actually by that time. That time by hardware company, and so on. So there was no one, हमारा कोई पिता और माता नहीं था. So we said we have to find our own way. So some of us were talking at various places. Some people in Bangalore, some people in Mumbai, some in Delhi. But somehow we catapulted into a kind of network. There was no network that time, technical network, but we kind of converged together and we said we can't be part of any other association. We formed completely.
But you see, the thing is, Ashank, conceptually it sounds great. But in a way, the people, when they got together, they were also competitors. So how do you get that collaborative? See, in today's world, is a very different ballgame.
Excellent.
Because we live in a world which is called competitive collaboration, because you collaborate when the need be, you compete when the need be. But in those days, the pie was not there. You were into concept marketing. You were even wanting to develop skills. So how did you get the collaboration between various people?
Excellent question, and that is the key of NASSCOM's success. In fact, Kiran Pandit, my friend, when he wrote that book, his title is co-fitting.
Could you just, I don't know why, either it is something with me because I'm hearing you well, but because for the recording purposes, yeah.
Now I'm better.
Yes, definitely better.
A little bit at least. So that is the key of our success actually. If that was not there, we would not have succeeded. I'll tell you why. You agree? I agree with you. You know what was the export in 1988 when we started NASSCOM? Make a guess. Just make a guess.
I can imagine. What, maybe less than $1 billion?
Unfair question to ask you.
Yeah.
$50 million.
Oh, wow. Wow.
$1 billion of the whole industry. We are going to 200 billion plus this year. 4,000 times growth in one generation. That's what we, and we never dreamed it. So that's why I say sometimes, Pradeep, I lived a dream. We all lived a dream of being this industry to where it is now, to where we came from. In NASSCOM, we used to say, yaar, meeting Delhi mein kyun rakhte ho? We have to take a flight and come back here. Kyun paisa kharcha karne ka itna? That was our size. Be it Infosys or Mastek or anyone else. They were so small, tiny companies. So the point I'm making is, we had values because we were all professionals of first generation. So whether it is Mr. Narayan Murthy of Infosys or whether Harish Mehta, I don't know whether you heard, Ramani, Gaurav, all of us were first generation professionals, well educated, middle class, but good values, and not part of existing paradigm of doing business. We had some vision, but we had values. And that is what kept us together. That was a friendship. And we are still friends. 4, 5 of us that involved in the initial foundation are still good friends and talk to each other so frequently. But just talk to her sometimes. So the point I'm making is, there was something chemistry in that initial team which came together. And it was running NASSCOM operationally at least 6, 7 years first. Then new people came, Karwa banti gaya, as they say. Minimode joined and we have a talent which is, we have great guys today. And we had many on the way. But the point I'm making is, we were all competing with each other, but the spirit was when we come in NASSCOM, we don't talk about problem. I'll give you an example. N. Chandra, who is now great guy in Tata Sons, when he was a TCS boss, he went with other other NASSCOM guys to Russia, and there was some Russian delegation which went from NASSCOM. And the NASSCOM chairman that time was supposed to present about IT industry, but he could not do for some reason. And he told Chandra, who was now going to become next chairman, present, and he had to talk about other companies rather than TCS. He did that. That is the kind of value that we have. You have to experience it, Pradeep.
I can understand.
Every year, all of us go to what is called as retreats. And there have been 25 retreats. I am the only guy who has attended all, but that apart. Retreats, we go together as a family. We know each other by family names, whether it is Patrick Kohli, Narayan Murthy, whether I'm taking names there. I don't want to throw names at you, but the point I'm making is we are a family. NASSCOM family.
Fabulous.
That is a story that is to be told. As you know, many people worldwide come and ask us, "Yeah, tell me why NASSCOM was successful. Why you guys did so well?" There are cases written on us, if you know. And many other associations, when they come and start, tell us to speak, all of us, about how to run a association where competition works together. I have told you only part of the stories. I have a lot of stories how we were working together. We were helping NASSCOM by putting our own money and putting our own, at the cost of our company. There was a time where NASSCOM was very small and we didn't have money. So, Infosys did a training program on AS400 and trained people which were their competitors. But the idea was the fees collected would help NASSCOM. Or I went to Australia, by the way, where you are, in 1991, by spending my own money. Why? There was an association, or there is an association called ASSOCIO, Asia Oceanic IT Industry Organization. And I wanted NASSCOM to become member. In 91, nobody knew NASSCOM. It's a small nation. And there is some Indian guy went and became member there. And in India, we have those funny guys. So I had to tell them, he's not an IT guy. So I went and became member and became chairman of ASSOCIO, by the way. We had a big event in Melbourne in 2009 when I was there. Anyway, the point I'm making is all of us were committed to make NASSCOM successful at the cost of our company sometimes. And that happened, I don't know.
It is fabulous. It is fabulous to hear about such stories, because where people were, willing to let go of personal interest and look at a common cause and a national interest. That is fabulous. Was there any role of the government in promoting NASSCOM?
When all of us founder members were felicitated by our Prime Minister 5 years ago, there was special function where we were felicitated. And they also felicitated Narayan Murthy and Arjun for India industry success and so on. So it says, everyone says the word NASSCOM's IT industry succeeded because government didn't know anything about you guys. So partly it is true, but to be very serious, no. Government indeed played very important role, and NASSCOM was catalyst in making that happen. That is the point. Point was, government was not willing to talk to any individual people. They said, you form an association, show us you are doing some good work, we'll help you. And we had a person called Victor. I don't know, you may not have heard. He's again a IAS officer who was head of DOE, it was called Department of Electronics. He was a visionary guy, bureaucrat, but from Gujarat. So he was very entrepreneurial. So he came and said, you guys are talking all these big things. So he said, yeah, sir, but you are not helping us. He said, I'll help you. Come to me after a few days. That time our total revenue was 120 million or something. Our total revenue of whole IT industry. So he comes and tells me after 3 days, you asked me ABCD, I'm giving you all of this, but I have committed to finance minister, and the finance minister that time was Mr. Manmohan Singh, that IT industry will do 400 million next year. I said, we fell down our chair. I said, sir, we are far away from 400 billion. He says, that you find out. I am going to help you, but you better deliver. Such were the guys in Department of Electronics. And they created this whole concept of technology park, software technology park, STPI. This was created by Department of Electronics, Mr. Vittal and IT industry, NASSCOM rather, together. And we said, we can't do software in a technology park, boss. You can do it anywhere from home. We liberated the whole issue of how to build software by allowing everybody to do anything, anywhere. People will not know all this. It has liberated IT industry. We asked for a 0% duty on software import. In 1891, all other industries said, these guys are fools here. We need high duty to protect ourselves. We said no. We want zero duty because a lot of good software can come in. We will build our expertise on that and then export. Flood in, flood out. We said that, 91. It was just liberalized that year. But we were far ahead in terms of our vision of what it means to compete. We said we don't want to help. Make it 0%. The government said, "Arey bhai, tum 0% kuch se, wo sab hawala karenge." All that. They had their own doubts. But we could convince them. We even met Manmohan Singh that time. He was finance minister. So on. So government was extremely helpful. Department of Electronics had very professional. We were very lucky, but they also trusted us. They saw us as a professional. In fact, one of them had just written a book 5 days ago. He had inaugurated his book, 25 Years History of DOE. He was a bureaucrat that time, one level assistant to himself. He invited all of us to speak. And we were remembering those 25 years ago, what used to happen in government. He used to take delegation and he will tell all of us, तुम चुप रहने का, तुम कुछ नहीं बात करने का. We will talk about India. तुम तुम्हारे कंपनी का बात करेगा तो ये नहीं चलेगा. फिर हम बात करने के बाद we will have a dinner and party that time we can talk. Funny thing like that. The point I'm making is government was indeed helpful. And we thanked them. In fact, there was a report by World Bank in 92, which was financed by government, and which said we can be $1 billion investment. In 92, they said that nobody believed 1 billion was far away, but it happened. And so on. And they help us even today. The story of partnership.
So, now moving forward, so long the original founders were there, you had the personal equation, but over time the industry grew and the second generation came in, or more and more members joined in. Then how was the journey?
You are asking boss questions as if you have done some research on NASSCOM. You see, this was the worry we had. And many associations flounder on that. What happens is you have election. Every 2 years there is an election. People come, get elected. They do 2-year work. Then they go out. They are all busy in their industry, their company. New guys come. They want to do some new way. There is no trace of history, no trace of values. So we created an institution called Past Chairman's Council in NASSCOM. So we have two structures in NASSCOM. One is elected executive council. And then if the executive council elects a chairman, the chairman is there for 1 year, and then that chairman becomes part of this executive council. So we are now 25 of us who meet not as executive council but as chairman's council for advice, for continuity, for long-term well-being of NASSCOM, and even getting new leaders to come in executive council. So there is a symbiotic relationship between executive elected council and we as a what we call fatherly figures, if I may call ourselves. And that is a continuity. So people come and go, but this group remains and gets added up slowly. One after a year, one new person joins. And that group meets and discusses these issues. And we are invited to be on EC. See, I am a permanent invite on the EC. I don't have to stand election now. As a past chairman, I am on. So whenever I want, I attend the meeting. Maybe I talk my few words to all of the younger crowd. Many others will be there. Even we had chairmen like Jerry Rao, we had people like many others. We had recent years, many people from IT and PTO industry have there. They all come. We give our advice to the younger guys. But they run day-to-day affairs. We do conscious keeping in them. To be institution.
So now comes, let's move forward even further. So there was a growth phase, and then came what we can call as possibly the maturity phase, where in a sense the growth started slowing down. And if you go to a couple of years, before the pandemic, IT outsourcing had become virtually commoditized. There were people all over the country who are now into IT outsourcing. India is well established as a global player. Then, do you think in that environment, did NASSCOM really become a big boys club?
Yeah, so that is the complaint sometimes people have, that we have become so big now, $200 billion industry, top 30 companies account for 60-70% of revenue. So we are conscious of that, and to see that we don't become that, we have now focused on SME, that is small and medium enterprise, that is below 200 crores revenue. So most of our members are SMEs still. After all, everyone starts a new enterprise. So what we have done is, we have specific seats reserved for SMEs now in our council. That is number one. Number two is, we have a council, sub-council which works only with SMEs all over India. And in fact, now we have started mentoring. In fact, just last Saturday, I had a session with 5 entrepreneurs, and they were from various parts of the country, and they were talking to me, and I was guiding them. So we are trying to connect with ground level, upcoming entrepreneurs to various ways. We have a startup, 1000 startup initiative. Rajan Anandan of, that time of Google, now he has left Google, but he was driving it some time back. So we are doing many initiatives to what's specifically around small and medium enterprises, so that people don't say that we are only big boys and all that kind of stuff. Because after all, they are tomorrow's, Infosys or HCL or before. So what we are saying is, we need to build that, and we are doing so much to make that happen.
Okay, understand. So therefore, there is a very focused attempt to reach out to small and medium enterprises and kind of get them up also as part of a bigger community. But herein comes yet another, what should I call it, opportunity as well as a threat, and that is emerging technologies. We are now talking of, IoT, VR, AR, or metaverse, and we are talking of all these where even nobody knows what the ecosystem is like. Large number of players are startups with people 1 to 25 head count. In that kind of environment, what is NASSCOM's relevance?
So it is like this. Technology change has been a constant thing, as you know, in IT. When I was in IIT Bombay, I was doing a punch card. Not even punch card, I was scripting tapes. And my first program written was on punch card, as you know. So the technology evolution is nothing new. Yes, the speed has gone up now. Technologies are multiple now, right from AR, VR to AIML to IoT to the digital printing. You can name the same thing. So to that extent, it is become much wider. But change in technology is nothing new to IT industry and to NASSCOM. We have adapted those changes. You remember Y2K? Y2K happened 20 years ago.
Yep.
At that time, nobody knew what was Y2K. But NASSCOM trained people, NASSCOM created a lot of forums to make people aware that this was an opportunity to delegate this. Then there was the whole issue of quality. Nobody believed NASSCOM India can do quality. So we promoted this ISO 9000 and there were esoteric names. Your audience here may not say what is this acronym he's talking. But the point I'm making is at each stages we have done enough work to train members to build new skills. So as we speak today, Pradeep, we have a large initiative of skill building. And NASSCOM, together with government and many other private people, have continuous training and certifying large number of IT types. And these programs are created by entrepreneurs. Some of these entrepreneurs are our members. Some of these young kids are our part of our group. We are doing this curriculum. Some of them are coming and training our other members, so on and so forth. So that is one. Second is, IT industry is unlikely to be commoditized for a very simple reason. We are delivering value to our customers in new technology. Now, Mastek, for example, today we are doing a work with some governments which is far ahead of its time and changing the way they relate to the society. I can't talk about the government, but we are working for one government where this INX identification will be the only entry to you. You will not need any other passport or anything like that. The point I'm making is IT industry is building so much of differentiation because of new applications. It is unlikely to be commoditized in the sense everybody can do it. So if your question was, what is the future of IT industry? Today it is the fastest growing industry in India. India in the sense Indian IT industry, but even globally. So I'm not worried about commoditization. Let 1,000 flowers bloom, because these 1,000 flowers will come out with new technologies which we will use. You know which technologies I'm using today in US? These are by startups 5 years ago. Now they have become billions on the unicorns. And we are using their technologies to go to our customers. They don't know how to go to customers because they are small. They are 1 billion market cap, but they have only 100 people. I have thousands of people who can go to customer and explain them how we can use this technology. So there is a whole value chain or ecosystem as we call it. Entrepreneurs, service industry, project companies, hardware industry together will grow. So I'm not worried of commoditization.
Fabulous. Let me now go across to, this has been a great discussion. Now, you are also involved in a whole number of institutions.
Yeah.
You are on the board of IIM Ahmedabad, you are on the board of I don't know how many other associations. Now, my first question is that where do you find the time to, get yourself involved into all this? And the second is, in the list of institutions, there are a few from Goa. So why in particular Goa? Is there any specific reason for that?
Okay. So there is one secret which you don't know about me. I come from Goa.
Oh, I see. Oh.
And my dear friend Manohar Parrikar, IIT Bombay guy.
Yes.
It means that I do something back to the
Community.
So that brings me closer to Goa. So you have done a lot of research on me, boss. I know. I do a lot of work for Goa. Very much involved with Goa government. I'm a chairman of Goa Institute of Management. I am also helping a lot of NGOs there. Blah blah blah. Anyway.
So, do you still maintain a house in Goa?
Yes, I do. I do maintain a house. I go there once for friends. COVID, I have not gone a long time. But yeah.
So, it has been absolutely fabulous talking to you, and it has been.
Thanks, Pradeep. You are doing a great job of bringing all of us together. with different skills. It was nice to know what Sunil is doing.
Yes.
I was not aware. I used to meet him many times in industry, but it is great to hear him. It is great to see my many friends here on, as I said, Arjun is there. I saw Chandas. He is my Pan IIT friend. I'm involved in Pan IIT also. For you know Pan IIT, I hope. There's an
Of course, yes, I know. I know there's one Pan IIT US. I know there is a Pan IIT India. But I know, yes, and that is supposed must be another story by itself.
I was the chairman of PIAI,
Oh,
and I will say this about myself, that I and my other IITians team together created the largest ever event of IITians coming together. Largest ever IIT event, 5,000 people in Mumbai in 2006, where Abdul Kalam was our chief guest, and he was sitting next to me on the podium. He said, "कितने लोग हैं?" Sir, 5,000 है. He said, 5,000 अपने काउंट किए क्या? I said, है sir, मुझे पता है कितनी चेयर हमने डाली है. So that was PII. That's a separate story, some other time.
one of the first things that I will walk away from this session is that I think in your ability to be a consensus builder in getting people to think beyond just about themselves and looking at such bigger causes, whether it is the Pan IIT, whether it is, NASSCOM, or whether it is their own other kind of different this thing is, because you see a lot of people look at these kind of opportunities for promoting themselves. And how to step up beyond yourself and kind of look at a bigger cause is really something which is very cool.
So I just want to say this, that I have started a center at IIT Bombay called Policy Center for Building Public Policy. To fire a query for ADCPS, the Ashank Desai Center for Policy. Just donated a corpus to do a policy research for helping policymakers on technology. And at IIM Ahmedabad, I have started a center for leadership called ADCL. Why what I'm doing at IIM Ahmedabad and IIT Bombay. So my next effort would be to build these centers which can do with IIT and IIM's my contribution to the country in leadership and policy making.
Fabulous. This is absolutely fabulous, and it's given me so many ideas to get you further down in the tracks for because this policy center that you are creating is going to be the legacy. This is going to be really looking at where the country is in terms of growth currently and at targets of going into a $5 trillion economy and so on and so forth. This is really the need of the hour. So with that, folks, please give a big round of applause to Ashank. Ashank, it was absolutely wonderful to get you into this session and have this level of a discussion.
Thanks, Pradeep, for inviting me. Thanks for all my friends and many others who are on this call. Some of us have also, Arjun is a guy who has done so much of work now in social service. So he and I and others, many others, are involved in an organization called WHEELS. This was started by IITs in the US.
Yes.
And I do work for them in India. The IITs are also doing some other work. It's a long story.
So we will pick you up also on wheels. That's why I'm saying this session has given me so many different ideas to blend together for future sessions. So once again, a big thank you to Sunil and to Ashank today as we sign off for GCC episode 21, which is the last session for the year 2021. I think one of the common links that I see through between both of them is that you've got to think big. That has to be there, as just one of the items of the total pool, that we are talking about. So with that, this is Pradeep signing off from Sydney. Have a lovely morning, evening, afternoon, night. Enjoy your morning cup of tea or evening glass of wine or afternoon glass of lassi. Take care and talk to you next time. Bye for now.